August 1947. Nearly 200 years after they took power, the British are leaving India in what is now known as the Indian Partition. Large riots and shootings had led to a once ethnically diverse nation to be split into two, based solely on religion. Millions of Hindus die as they try to escape back to the country they once called home, while millions of Muslims are slaughtered as they try to reach the place they can finally feel welcome. This unfortunate period of chaos in all parts of India occurred during many people's lifetimes who are still alive today. One such man is Satwar Dhawan.
I came from a small village in what was West Punjab, now Pakistan, where the people in that area were not separated by religion from the man who labored so diligently in their neighboring farm or home, but they were united by the equality of knowing that all men work to earn his or her crop. But once the British left, after splitting India into two parts, Pakistan and India, without even staying to help even a little bit, the bonds that the members of both ancient religions had created was completely destroyed. The savagery I've seen is enough to last a lifetime, and my family and I barely had enough time to get on a train heading to India before looters and murderers came and ransacked my house. Millions of people had to start from scratch, just as I had to.
Even today, India and Pakistan are still very bitter enemies. The former ties that have long since been severed between the two countries have led to mistrust and hate. As such, many terrible things have happened that could have been stopped if there was no partition, like the forced migration of 15 million people and the death of 2 million more. Many people claim that the partition was bound to happen, but they never thought about what might happen afterwards, such as the brutal murders and violence that spread across the once beautiful nation of India. The many atrocities that occurred between the two spiteful countries would not have happened if there was no Indian partition. The death toll would have been much less if there was more preparation, and if there was a much more peaceful split of India, ending with two nations existing in harmony next to each other.
India was ruled by the British for the first time in the form of the British East India Company, whose so-called rule started in 1757, 190 years before the Indian partition. As they grew bigger, they desired to expand into much more Indian territory, and did so when they started to go to war with much of East India, and most notably the province of Bengal. In the 1800s, they finally succeeded in conquering every single former kingdom of India. The British East India Company, though, was steadily being replaced as the rulers of the Indian provinces by the British Empire, even having to be supervised by the British Parliament right after they took control. The British Empire officially ruling India starting in 1858, starting a period called the British Raj, or literally British rule in Hindi, which one man named Doraiswamy Venkataraman remembers vividly.
Born in India, in southern part of India, we called Tamil Nadu, as in the year 1934. At least 100 years before, Britishers have already taken a deep root in India. They actually came for trading, and slowly they got over the rule of India. They established their empire as early as middle of 1800. By the time they have they have taken possession of the total rule over India, all the major factories, all the economic factories were under their control. All the uh, gains they were siphoning out of India and keeping the population and India poor all the time. They mainly divided dispute between Hindu Muslim, and it was helpful to them for ruling over India. They also, in addition, converted most of the poor to Christianism, and thereby they gained more strength.
Unfortunately, this thought process was similar in many of the people in British India. The Hindus started to blame the Muslims and vice versa. This was the case in most of the countries of the British Raj, which was all over Central South Asia, including the modern-day countries of India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. During this time, India saw many changes like raising prices and greater military presence, but also things like westernization and a greater divide between religions. These and other reasons are part of the reason that the Indian partition happened.
The partition first occurred when the All India Muslim League wanted their own country separate from India, wanting a country that they were the majority and they could choose their own laws and rules. Since the All India Muslim League wanted their own sovereign nation, the Indian National Congress decided to try and get their own country through a partition. The Viceroy of India at the time, Louis Mountbatten, had settled on the fact that if the partition didn't happen now, it was bound to happen later. So in August 1947, the British officially left India, but it proved to be much bloodier and tragic than they had thought.
Just in the state of Punjab, there had been 650,000 deaths accounted for, while 10 million more had to leave their home and livelihood. Instead of Pakistan and India choosing to stay as one country and live in harmony, or at least gradually separate, they decided to split immediately. This, of course, led to much trouble as many Hindus and Muslims were on the wrong side of the border, and the members of the majority religion were not very helpful in the leaving of the minority religion, instead of resorting to violence, looting, and murder. This was the way in almost all of India and the newly formed Pakistan, which consisted of modern-day Pakistan and Bangladesh.
The Indian partition is largely regarded as the single largest mass migration in human history. And a total of 15 million people were located forcefully. The choices of one nation, Britain, changed the outcomes of two more, India and Pakistan. For India, many citizens were angry that their idea of a country of diverse cultures and religions, which has lasted for thousands of years, could be stretched and pulled in so many ways by the Muslims. And the frustration developed into a loathing. For Pakistan, most citizens were happy with their own religion was finally controlling the government. But when India helped Bangladesh gain independence in 1971 from Pakistan, it also developed a spiteful view of its neighbor. If different paths were taken, we might have had a bigger, more diverse India. The Indian partition changed India, Pakistan, Asia, and the world forever.